Today we're doing free code camp, JavaScript algos and data structures, basic JavaScript on challenge 90 of 113. We're almost there. So today we are going to use objects for lookups. So objects can be thought as key value storage, which they are. We have a key of 1 and a value of z. If you have tabular data, you can use an object to look up values rather than a switch statement or an if-else chain. Here is an example of a simple reverse alphabet lookup. So the first value of a backwards alphabet would be Z, and the second would be Y, and so forth. And we can look them up by saying the third letter is equal to alpha, which is the alphabet backwards, at the index of, not index of, but at the key of 2. So 2 would be Y. Last letter, 24. Z. I don't know if that makes sense number-wise. I don't know if that's the... Okay. Anyways, the third letter of the string is Y, so 2, 2, that's Y. So basically what it wants us to do here is convert this switch statement, which we've gone over. We know how switch statements work. We want to convert it to an object called a lookup, and we want to use the value passed into this function here to basically find whatever value is at that key. So if the value here was 25, we would say 25, and we would return B. So basically we're just going to convert this to an object. I don't know if this is the best way to learn how to do this in a literal function, like converting a function, but I guess it works. So we're converting a function to a object, right? So apparently we only change below this line and above this line, so we're going to create a new object called lookup. Okay, so we don't need this line at all. We can say let lookup equal curly brackets, which is an object, and we already have one at the bottom here to close all this off, so we can delete that one. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of errors here because we're in the middle of refactoring. So we want to convert the cases to keys and the results changing here to the values. So we can just simply say this. We can delete the case and delete all this up to this point. So we have a key of alpha, and it connects to atoms. And same thing here. We're just going to delete this to this point and delete this to this point. So now we have a key of Bravo, and the value is Boston. And we're just going to keep doing the same for all of these. One thing important to note is we do have to separate these by commas because it is an object. So we have a key of alpha, a value of atoms, and then a comma, which means it's a new key, a new value. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing that for all of these. So Charlie is Chicago, add the comma, Delta is Denver, make that a comma, Echo is easy, Foxtrot is Frank. There. So now this looks more like a object that we're used to seeing. So we have our object lookup, and we can access the lookup.alpha, which would return atoms, because that is the key and the value within the object lookup. And we need to return that value. Alright, so we're just going to simply say, within our function, right, our function takes in a value, and we have a blank string for the result. So we're just going to look up that value within our lookup object. So we can simply say return lookup dot val. Well, this actually won't work because we are using a dot property. So because we're using a value, we want to use bracket notation. So that's probably what this is saying here at some point. But because we're using bracket notation, if we had this in quotes, it would be the property itself. But because it is not in quotes, well, now it's double in quotes. Because it's not in quotes, it knows it's a variable, so it is plugging in that variable of val into lookup at that key. So if we call this function phonetic lookup Charlie, Charlie gets passed in, and then we enter the lookup object at the key of Charlie, which is Chicago, and we are returning that Chicago here. And this should work. We do not want to modify the return statement. So this was return result. So I guess all we have to do here then is change result. So we can say result is equal to, which is assigning lookup val. So instead of just returning lookup val, we're returning the result, and the result is being assigned to that value. So that's all we have to do for this one. Realistically, we could have just returned that lookup val, the key, so lookup, entering this lookup, and the value being whatever is passed in, which is Charlie. That's assigned to result now, and we're returning that. Hope that helped. Hope to see you guys in the next one.